Christian at a really young age. At like the age of 4, I explained to my mom that I needed to accept Jesus, and I wanted to do it on Christmas because that's when Jesus was born. And my mom told me that I didn't need to wait until then and that I could do it right now. And so she prayed with me, and that's when I accepted Christ. Growing up in a Christian home with like the most loving and supporting parents was beyond ideal. They raised me to love the Lord, and I went to church every week. I was involved in my youth group. I went to church camps in the summer, and it was just great. My church taught me how to walk with God on a daily basis, and I strive to do so. Growing up all together, there were tough moments, but life was great. After high school, I decided to go to the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, and I immediately got involved with Crusade, and I loved it. My freshman year was a time of growth in my relationship with God. After my freshman year, I spent my summer marching drum corps, and for those of you who don't know what drum corps is, it's basically like really, really, really intense marching band, and I was in the color guard, and so I spun my flag, and that summer I changed, but I was completely unaware of it. When I got off the field from finals that night, my mom texted me and she was like, "Hey Steph, like congratulations, like I'm so proud of you, like whatever." And I was like, "Thanks Mom." And then she texted me and she was like, "Was it worth it?" And I responded, yeah, it was worth it. Like, I thought that all of the pain and the sweat and the tears and the heat was worth that one final show that I left in the field that night. And so when I came home, I saw one of my best friends from college, and I was so excited to see her. After a few days of being with her, she turned to me and she's like, "Stephanie, I don't really like who you are, like you've changed, and I don't really know why." This was a harsh truth for me to handle. I didn't want to accept it because I thought that I was a cooler version of myself. I thought that I was tan and I was really skinny, and I had just conquered the hardest thing that I will ever do in my entire life. But what I didn't realize was that I had become immodest in my dress, arrogant, and self-centered in my thoughts. I compromised my lifestyle with guys, and my language was filthy. The reality of coming back to school and having to be a leader in the Crusade movement was going to become a lifestyle contradictory to the way I had lived that summer. I knew that I couldn't keep living out of selfish ambition, and I needed to surrender at Christ, but it was so hard because I just didn't want to. I fought it for everything that it was worth. I just didn't want to take that one step of faith and release myself into the hands of my Creator. But when I finally did, joy. I have never experienced more joy than in that one moment when when I gave it all to Christ. Like, the burden of carrying everything for my summer became too much, but when I gave it to Christ, it was just such a release. However, this also meant that I was giving color guard to Him, and from here on out, it was, if God wanted me to march, I was going to march. And if He didn't want me to march, I was done spinning my flag. And I needed to accept that, and I needed to love that. And today I still struggle with it because I want to go back to that lifestyle, to the language, to the men, to the arrogant thoughts, to the reality, or to everything. But the reality is that lifestyle is empty. And I have to daily remind myself of the truths of Christ, and that I can't buy into the lies of Satan. And when I do seek these truths in Christ, I experience true joy. One question that always brings me back to Christ and reminds me of His truth and grace is when anybody asks me, "Is the gospel worth it?" Because I think back to that one question that my mom asked me after my finals performance, "Was it worth it?" And now I realize that no, it wasn't worth it. Like, yeah, I learned a lot about who I was, but I ruined who I was in Christ. I became someone who I never wanted to be, and I wasted my summer. After a lot of processing through last summer, I realized that it's just not about me. It's just not about me. And I can no longer afford to spend my time on selfish activities that only build into this earthly lifestyle, but rather I need to live for something bigger than myself. I need to live for Christ, and I need to live and invest in His kingdom and His people.
Father, let my heart be after you.